Boise Town, today is your day. For years you have lived with uncertainty over land that has been your home. You built your houses here, you built relationships here, and you raised your families here. And you've watched generations grow up here. And yet, for too long, the security that should have come with calling a place home remained out of reach. My friends, that changes today. Successive governments were tackling this problem, and today we have conquered those problems. That is why land reform to me matters. And that is why the story of Boise Town matters. This administration has chosen to confront land reform directly. And we have chosen to address long-standing claims and to bring greater certainty to families and communities that have waited far too long. And as I've indicated, Boise Town is part of that wider effort. This is your home, this is your community, and now you can call this land your very home.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. And welcome to the Office of the Prime Minister. I always get so excited when I see such a full house, especially so many friendly faces. It's good to see all of you associated with the ministries, and of course members of the press and members of the public who are watching on television and social media. So this morning we are talking about two very important issues. One, of course, just a week away, where students are concerned, the return to school. And is that a good thing or a bad thing? It depends who you ask, but it's certainly a very important thing for the future of our country. In anticipation of that, we're very pleased to firstly acknowledge the Minister of Education and Deputy Prime Minister, the Honorable I. Chester Cooper, along with Senator Keenan Johnson, Permanent Secretary Neil Campbell. We will hear directly from the Director of Education, Ms. Dominique McCartney-Russell, on developments and education plans for the year ahead and examination results of the last school year. We're also pleased to have with us executives from the Department of Inland Revenue. We have the controller here this morning, Mrs. Shonda Strawn, who will discuss the One Tax Bahamas launch, which is basically a consolidation of the services of inland revenue to cut some of the red tape associated with doing business in the Bahamas. We will start things off this morning with Ms. Dominique McCartney-Russell, who we now welcome to the podium.
I'm going to stand on the established protocol because I was told I only have 20 minutes. And so a pleasant good morning to everyone. The national examinations are intentionally designed to recognize, validate, and celebrate academic achievement across a broad range of learner profiles, acknowledging diverse strengths, competencies, and pathways to success. In addition to their assessment function, these examinations facilitate matriculation and employment opportunities while generating valuable data that support evidence-based decision-making by policymakers, educational leaders, school administrators, and other stakeholders committed to national development. It is important to emphasize that the principal purpose of this report is not to rank or compare educational institutions. Rather, it seeks to provide empirically grounded insights that can inform strategic planning, targeted interventions, and the effective allocation of human, financial, and infrastructural resources throughout the education system. We recognize the significant influence that public examination outcomes continue to have on educational policy and practice. Consequently, the design, administration, and continuous review of the national examinations are guided by two overarching priorities: ensuring relevance to the evolving Bahamian educational context and maintaining rigorous standards aligned with internationally recognized best practices. These standards remain consistent with those upheld by established external examining bodies whose credibility and reliability have been demonstrated over many decades. As the education sector continues to evolve in response to national priorities and global developments, the national examinations remain an essential mechanism for measuring student attainment, supporting accountability, and informing initiatives aimed at improving educational outcomes for all learners. And so we look at the Bahamas Junior Certificate Examination Report for 2026. The year 2026 marks the 33rd sitting of the Bahamas Junior Certificate Examination since its reintroduction in 1994. 10,449 candidates from 120 centers were registered to sit the examination. 52 were government schools, while 68 centers were independent or private. The number of candidates represents a decrease of 0.27% when compared to 2025, which had a total of 10,477 candidates from a total of 123 centers. The total number of subjects offered is 13. The total number of grades awarded in 2026 was 37,069 when compared to 2025, which was 37,253. This represents a decrease of 0.49%. Again, this year, mathematics and English language are the two most heavily subscribed subjects. Overall, BJC performance improved in 2026. The A to D pass rate increased from 64.54% in 2025 to 65.76% in 2026, while the proportion of grades at A to C increased from 47.63% to 49.04%. The strongest movement at the upper end was at grade A, which increased from 10.19% to 11.32%. And grade B, which increased from 16.41% to 16.99%. Subject performance was varied. Art and design recorded a 97.4% A to D pass rate. Craft study, 97.2%. Family and consumer science, 95.9%. Social studies, 88.2%. Literature, 87.7%, Spanish, 82.3%, and technical drawing, 80.6%. These results demonstrate strong performance across several arts, humanities, social science, and technical and vocational subjects. 11 of the 13 BJC subjects showed an improvement in grade point average compared with 2025. English language and religious studies were the only subjects to record a decline in GPA. Mean grades improved in French, health, science, literature, and technical drawing. Performance in the core and heavily subscribed subjects remains an important area for attention. Mathematics improved in BJC, with the number of A to D passes increasing by 5.8% and an overall pass rate of 55.6%. General science recorded a 56.4% pass rate and improved its number of A to D passes by 9.7%. English language recorded a 62.8% pass rate, but the number of A to D passes declined by 13.7%. Religious studies recorded a pass rate of 54.5%, while health science recorded 57.2%. English language recorded a significant increase in grade A. However, decreases at grades B through D contributed to an overall decline in performance. Mathematics recorded significant increases at grades A and B, and a 5.8% increase in the number of A to D passes when compared with 2025. A comparative analysis of female and male performance shows that females continue to record the stronger overall results. In 2026, the female pass rate was 68.4% compared with 62.65% for males. Females increased at grades A and D, while males increased at grades A and B. Of the 10,449 candidates registered for the 2026 BGCSE examination, 3,904 sat 5 or more subjects. Of those candidates, 1,405, or approximately 36%, attained a minimum grade C in at least 5 subjects. A further measure of overall past performance shows that 1,950 candidates, or approximately 49.9% of those who sat 5 or more subjects, achieved at least 5 A to D passes. In addition, 1,241 candidates achieved at least a C grade in mathematics, English language, and a science subject. This represented 11.88% of the overall BGCSE candidature. The ministry notes that some candidates distribute subjects across multiple examination sittings, so the annual figures do not necessarily represent their complete cumulative qualifications. It is important to note, however, that these statistics reflect only those candidates who sat all subjects within a single session. Given the ministry's encouragement of multi-year subject distribution, a significant portion of candidates possessing equivalent qualifications may not be captured within this reporting framework. As such, the data should be interpreted as a snapshot of annual performance rather than a comprehensive representation of cumulative achievement. Centers that have improved in grade point average when compared to 2025 or maintained a C- and above. Agape Christian School, Moores Island All Age, Patrick J. Bethel, Sherlin Boodle, Smith's Memorial, Forest Heights Academy, Central Andrews High, Huntley Christie High, Mangrove Key High, South Andrews High, R.N. Gomez All Age, Gateway Christian Academy, Louise McDonald High, Arthurstown High, Admiral Ferguson High, Deep Creek Middle School, Eleuthera Private, Harbor Island Private, Samuel Guy, Pinder All Age, Black Point All Age, Ellen Coakley, St. Andrews Anglican, Staniel Key All Age, or Aurelia Miller, Exuma Christian Academy, Alpha Omega Christian, Freeport Private, Grand Bahama Academy, Grand Key All Age, Sister Mary Patricia Russell Junior High, St. Paul's Methodist, Bishop Michael Eldon, Lucaya International, Mary Star of the Sea, Sunland Baptist Tabernacle, Wilbur Outen, Long Island Private, Inagua All Age, NGM Major High, Mayaguana All Age, Catherine International, Aquinas, Bahamas Academy, Bahamas Global Academy, CC Sweeting, CH Reeves, CW Saunders, DPS Training Center, Genesis Academy, H.O. Nash, Hope Academy, Jordan Prince William, L.W. Young, Mount Carmel Preparatory, New Providence Classical, San Pedro International, School for the Blind, Simpson Penn and Willamette Pratt, St. Anne's High, Tamberley School, Temple Christian, Bahamas Home Schools Association, Discovery Learning, Kingsway Academy, Lyford Key, Nassau Christian, Queens College, School for the Blind, Aaron Gilmore School for the Blind, South Haven Christian Academy, St. Andrews, St. Augustine, St. John's, Windsor, and Telios. And so now we look at the BGCSE 2026. The year 2026 marks the 34th administration of the Bahamas General Certificate of Secondary Education examination, first introduced in 1993. This national assessment serves as a culminating measure of student learning designed to evaluate what candidates know, understand, and are able to demonstrate upon completion of a prescribed 3-year course of study. The grades awarded are intended to reflect academic achievement and potential rather than to serve as a definitive judgment of individual worth. It is essential to acknowledge that candidate performance is influenced by a constellation of factors, both intrinsic and extrinsic, to the formal education system, which may impede optimal outcomes and should be considered in any evaluative review of results. In 2026, a total of 6,169 candidates from 109 examination centers were registered to sit the BGCSE. 41 were government schools and 68 were independent or private centers. This represents a 1.08 increase over 2025, when 6,103 candidates from 108 centers were registered. The examination encompassed 27 subject offerings, each with distinct assessment modalities tailored to disciplinary standards. A total of 20,758 grades were awarded in 2026 compared to 20,626 6 in 2025, representing a 0.64% increase. The overall BGCSE pass rate increased from 70.13% in 2025 to 71.49% in 2026. The A to C rate also increased slightly from 51.13% to 51.61%. The improvement in the overall pass rate was driven principally by increases at grades C and D, while the proportions of grades A and B declined. Subject-specific pass rates. Art and Design C achieved a 100% pass rate. Carpentry and Joinery, 98.1%. Food and Nutrition, 97.3%. Art and Design B, 97%. Graphical Communication, 96.1%. Music, 95.6%. Auto Mechanics, 94.3%. Literature, 93.7%. And Office Procedures, 91.9%. These results demonstrate very strong performance in several technical and vocational, arts, and humanities subjects. A number of other subjects recorded solid pass performance, including geography at 88.9%, French at 87.4%, electrical installation at 86.7%, art and design A at 86.5%, religious studies at 85.7%, chemistry at 82.7%, English language at 81.6%, commerce at 80.6%, Spanish at 79.5%, history at 79.4%, physics at 76.7%, and combined science at 76.2%. The most significant concerns remains mathematics, which recorded an A to D pass rate of 33.3%, down from 2025, with the number of A to D passes declining by 14.1%. Bookkeeping and accounts also remained below the 50% threshold with a 44% pass rate. Biology at 59.8% showed meaningful improvement. The number of A to D passes increased by 16.7%. Taken together, the BGCSE 2026 results show modest overall improvement in pass performance. A comparative analysis of female and male performance in the 2026 BGCSE examination shows that females continue to outperform males overall. The female A to D pass rate was approximately 73.55%, compared with 68.46% for males. Females increased at grades A, C, and D compared with 2025, while males increased at grades C and D but declined at grades A and B. The U rate was 3.15% for females and 4.6% for males, indicating a continuing gender difference in overall performance. Of the 6,169 candidates registered for the 2026 BGCSE examination, 2,002 sat 5 or more subjects. This represents approximately 32.5% of the overall candidature. Among candidates who sat 5 or more subjects, 649, or approximately 32.4%, attained grades C or above in at least 5 subjects. This was an increase from 627 candidates in 2025. In addition, 987 candidates, or approximately 49.3% of those who sat 5 or more subjects, achieved at least 5 A to D passes, compared to 970 in 2025. A total of 360 candidates achieved at least grade C in mathematics, English language, and a science subject, representing a 5.83% of the overall BGCSE candidature. These statistics should be interpreted within the context of candidates who distribute their subject load across multiple years. The annual figures provide a snapshot of performance in a single examination cycle and may not capture the complete cumulative achievement of candidates who have earned qualifications over more than one sitting. Centers that have an increase in overall GPA when compared to 2025, and those that have an overall performance of C- or above. Forest Heights Academy, Morris Island All Age, Patrick J. Bethel, Sherlyn Boodle, Huntley Christie, Mangrove Key High, Aaron Gomez All Age, Gateway Christian Academy, Arthurstown High, Admiral Ferguson High, Black Point All Age, Exuma Christian Academy, St. Andrews Anglican Samuel Guy All Age, Bishop Michael Eldon, 8 Mile Rock High, Freeport Private, Grand Key All Age, JC Academy, Jack Haywood Senior High, Lucaya International, Mary Star of the Sea, Catholic High, St. George's High, Tabernacle Baptist, Inagua All Age, North Long Island High, NGM Major High, Aquinas College, Atlantic College, CC Sweeting, C.R. Walker, C.V. Bethel, Doris Johnson, DPS Training Center, Galilee College, Genesis Academy, Government High School, Hope Academy, Jordan Prince William Baptist, Nassau Private, 2. Noble Preparatory Academy, Pace Christian Academy, San Pedro International, Temple Christian, Bahamas Academy, Kingsway, Life at Key, Nassau Christian Academy, Queens College, St. Andrews International, St. Anne's, St. Augustine's College, St. John's, Telios, and San Salvador High. A special thank you and acknowledgement are extended to ADE Dawn Ferguson and the entire Examination and Assessment Division team for your steadfast leadership, your professionalism, and dedication throughout the examination cycle. We also recognize the invaluable contributions of the markers whose diligence and expertise help to ensure an examination cycle free of major irregularities. Sincere appreciation is extended to the educators who work tirelessly to prepare students for success, to school administrators, examination supervisors, and invigilators for your commitment to the efficient and orderly administration of these examinations, to our parents and guardians for your continued encouragement and unwavering support of students throughout the process. Thank you and a pleasant good morning. Any questions?
You mentioned that mathematics remains a concern. Why do you think that's the case, and what sort of things are you going to implement in the classroom to tackle that?
Well, one of the things that we first did was we conducted research of math. We looked at the results for 10 years, and we noticed that the results kept declining, and so we engaged a math study to identify the reasons why. And we have not necessarily discovered, we just wanted really to contextualize it to the Bahamian experience, but we found, for example, issues with engagement, with motivation. Students feel anxiety towards math, and that could stem from their parents, who may have the same anxiety, so they pass that on. We also discovered that some of our teachers struggled with math, and so they wanted more support in that area. We also saw that we needed to focus more on experiential opportunities, taking the theory and giving children more hands-on. And so some of the things that we are seeking to advance, we've already identified 2 math officers, they're new education officers. They've been tasked with looking for strategies to support our students. And so you will find that we will focus on, and have started already, focusing on creating math labs, and that gives students the opportunity not just to learn about the theory and from concept, but to take the abstract and to make it concrete, and so more hands-on opportunities. We're also engaged with training. We've already trained some math teachers. We're seeking to train more of our math teachers, particularly at the primary school level. We're also supporting parents, providing training for them, so not just in terms of how to help their students at home or their children at home, but also to help them to love math, and so those are some of the strategies that we're putting in place to support math.
Just like you said, teachers are struggling with math. What does that mean exactly?
Well, we had a company, Sapphire, who engaged some of our teachers, and though they're generalists at the primary school, they study a number of subjects. And so math may not have been their favorite, and they actually said that. And so we have provided support for them, and the math lab is also going to support that work as well.
Are we also looking into why, I'm not trying to make it a general word here, but as to why the male students are falling behind their counterparts, and how do we get them their success rate to pretty much climb?
Well, one of the first things that we did is we met with all of the internal stakeholders, the men in our business. All of the teachers, the male administrators, and the technical officers, just to ascertain from their view, based on their experiences as educators, what are some of the issues surrounding, male education. We've also had a focus group of young men as well, which we will continue. And so from that meeting, we were, advised that we need to reform our curriculum so that our young men are engaged in more experiential opportunities. And so we're looking at TVET. We're also looking at assisting our young men with their social skills. We're looking at them in terms of mental health. And certainly one of the biggest things that came out of the meeting with those officers is the need for mentorship. Our males are crying out for mentors, and so we've already started providing them with mentors at some schools, and so that's one of the areas that we're going to focus on. So curriculum, certainly their social, emotional, and mental health, and providing mentorship for them.
For the BGC section, I think you noted English language and literacy were the only grades to report a decline in GPA. Can you also see or know what also contributes specifically to English within that grade level?
Well, a few years ago, particularly in regards to the pandemic, we discovered at that time that there were at least 40% of our children struggling with literacy skills. And so we engaged Renaissance, and we were able to not only assess but provide remediation. And we had, I think, 3 rounds of assessments, and our teachers were also trained, and we provided remediation. We believe that some of the issues are historic or are legacy issues. And so for us now, the focus is not just on providing remediation at different grade levels, but we're seeking to ensure that students are able to read by grade 2, grade 3. And so that's our focus. How do we ensure that we stem the tide? But because it's a legacy problem, we believe that the strategies that we put in place, they are working. But it's going to, it took us a while to get here. I believe that it's going to take us a while to get this literacy in hand, as we would say.
And the candidates that sat for the BGC, I know you said they can do multiple sittings, but the decrease to 2.7 for between this year is also a decrease when we look at 2025 to 2024, just 13 to 17. Do you also attribute that to the sittings, or do you think there was also catch up to students that decided to sit?
I believe that it is due to them sitting it earlier. I give you a good example. We have a student at CC Sweeting who sat subjects last year, I think 8 subjects. He got a few B's and C's, and he decided that he wanted to take them over. And so he now has, I think, between 8 and 10 A's for his exam. So you have that kind of thing. Some students take it, BJC, they may take it in grade 7, some in grade 8, and then some in grade 9. So we allow them, if they have the skills, to do so.
As schools reopen, I understand that the negotiations continue between the Bahamas Union of Teachers. Is the ministry prepared for union action should those negotiations fail?
Well, I'll be quite honest with you. We're hoping that the negotiations will not fail. We're looking forward to seeing all of our teachers in the space. Our children are excited, and the team members that we spoke to, they're excited. We will have a conclave on Wednesday with all of our teachers. We normally review the year before, and we tell them about the successes that we have had and what we are planning to do for the new year. So we expect to have all of our teachers are in the space right now, so we expect to see them continue their excellent work. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. McCartney. Russell, you got an A for that presentation, by the way. All right, we're going to turn the page now. Inland Revenue, led by the Controller, is here on the One Tax Bahamas launch. So please help me welcome to the podium Ms. Shonda Strawn.
Good morning, everybody. Always a pleasure to be with you. Today is great day, I see, for Ministry of Education, but also for the Department of Inland Revenue. Ministry of Education, and by the way, since we are talking about Ministry of Education, I'll put a plug for working together with the Ministry of Education. Remember, we are in our back to school holiday period, which started August 8th and will end on September 5th. So I want to encourage all of the parents. This is a good time to go out shopping and buy all of the supplies that are needed for the school year. When we think about the grades that Madam Director spoke about a few minutes ago relative to our students, the same thing happened really for the Department of Inland Revenue. The Department of Inland Revenue was graded. In 2022, the government contracted KPMG to come in and to assess how the Department of Inland Revenue was really doing, how we were performing in terms of servicing our taxpayers, collecting revenue, dealing with arrears, and all manner of things. So we were graded. Now, unlike Madam Director, I don't know that our scores fared as well. We kind of fared in the medium range. Not very high, not very low, but of course there was much room for improvement. And so for us in 2022, that improvement really began. And back in 2013, or let me go a little bit further back, in 2012 there was no Department of Inland Revenue, absolutely none. There were units that worked under the Ministry of Finance, but the Department of Inland Revenue didn't exist. In 2013, the Department of Inland Revenue was formed. And back then, the revenue budget for the Department of Inland Revenue was a mere $256 million, or 17% of the overall government's revenue budget. 17%, 2013. And the department had less than 90 employees. Fast track to last year. Last year, the revenue forecast for the Department of Inland Revenue was $1.8 billion. And we have just over 330 employees. So $1.8 billion represented about 46% of the government's overall revenue. This year, we are expected to bring in over $2 billion, just over $2.3 billion. And we will be accounting for more than 52% of the government's overall revenue. So, 13 years from 2013 to now, from 256 million to 2.3 billion. I don't care what they say. I think the Department of Inland Revenue is doing an exceptional job. But, like I say, there's room for improvement. And so, back in 2013, well, really in 2015, with the implementation of value-added tax, the department implemented a system we refer to as OTAS, One Tax Administration System. Now, OTAS enabled the department to deal with value-added tax and business license on one platform. But our other taxes, like real property tax and VAT stamp and all of the other taxes and all of the other services that the department deals with, are on other platforms. And so, for us, that's posing a bit of a challenge, not only for us, but also for the general public. And so, as a result, the government decided that it was time to upgrade our tax, all of our digital tax equipment and services, platforms, and all of the like. And there, now you have One Tax Bahamas. So today, I am pleased to introduce you all and the Bahamian public to One Tax Bahamas. And One Tax Bahamas officially launches to you, the Bahamian people, on the 1st of September. And that's really the one message. I know Madam Director had many numbers for you, but the one thing I want you to realize is that we will now have a new tax system called One Tax Bahamas that every Bahamian, I think, will be impacted by. What does it mean for you? It means that there will be new tax identification numbers. Most of you, if you have businesses or if you do import anything, you may need a TIN, tax identification number, if you're part of a nonprofit or any kind of group that brings in or imports things. You all are familiar with the tax identification number that we have now, or the TIN. But with One Tax Bahamas, all taxpayers will be required to register for a new tax number. So right now, the TIN sits like here, and it allows us to view and to manage business licenses and value-added tax. But with the new bin, which will sit at the top, it will allow us to manage all of our taxes. Real property tax, value-added tax, business license. It will be required for the importation of goods. If you are a business bringing in things with customs, you will be required to have a bin. And I dare say the bin will also be the government's vendor ID. So for any payment that you will receive from government, even like me who travel sometimes and need to receive subsistence, or any payments that you will need to get from the government, you will be required to have a bin. Now, that doesn't make many of you smile, or me either, because it means that you will have to come into a new system. You will have to sign on to the One Tax Bahamas system to really apply for a bin. And the bin will be a good thing for you because it will allow you to manage everything that you have going on with the government. So if it's payments, like I said before, coming in from the Treasury, or if it is to manage your real property tax, or if you have businesses that you need to manage, you will do so with the one number, the bin. So the Bahamas identification number is what I want you to remember, and I want you to remember One Tax Bahamas. All of this starts on the 1st of September. So you will be hearing us online. You will be hearing us all over the place on our various social media platforms, telling you how you can come into us. We will be having trainings starting from as early as tomorrow. There will be series of trainings that persons can come and enroll in, even on the weekends. We will have online tutorials that will help you with registering for your Bahamas identification number. So again, even me, for just having a property, if you own a property, if you need any kind of service from the government, you will be required to have a Bahamas identification number. The Bahamas identification number will not totally replace the TIN. The TIN will still be there. It will still sit as your unique identifier for value-added tax. But the Bahamas identification number will be all-encompassing. It will you will be able to access all of your tax information by having the number. So for us at Inland Revenue, we expect that the bin will be used by other departments as well. Stay tuned for that. I won't say much about that because, of course, the policymakers will decide which other government agencies. But for us, we will really want it to be ubiquitous to all taxes, but that is yet to be seen. So from the Department of Inland Revenue, we want you to remember that we are now in the era of One Tax Bahamas and all taxpayers. And dare I say, most residents, Bahamians, will require a Bahamas information number. And that's it for us for today.
Questions, please?
Mm-hmm.
The TIN numbers that businesses are gonna have, right?
Okay, so when you think about registration, you have to register for the bin first. And then you will, once you have a bin, once the bin is issued to you, you will then be able to register for other taxes. Now, it all won't happen at one time. We will be rolling out in phases. So the first phase is bin registration. Towards November, sometime in November, we will be rolling out the modules for business license, value-added tax. Then next year, we will be rolling out the modules for real property tax. So we're going to be doing it in phases because we realize we don't want to overwhelm anybody. And then also we're going to be allowing our staff to be properly trained on the system. So we're moving from our current platform onto an Oracle platform, as is the government with payroll and expenditure. So it's really an Oracle tax suite that we're moving towards. And so we're going to be doing it in phases.
Clarification, I know you said that this will launch on September 1st, but those who would have renewed their business license or anything of that sort, they wouldn't have to worry about this right now. They don't have to panic.
I won't say that. No, 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 no. There's no need for panic because we've started early, right? And so bin registration, like I say, starts September 1st. But really, you're going to need your bin for the upcoming 2027 business license renewal period. So we're saying to people, come in early, start early, don't wait, don't be like us. You know, we typical Bahamians, we wait for the last minute to do everything. But use the time to get yourself familiar with the system. We have a new website, a new Tax Bahamas website. And so we're really encouraging taxpayers, all of you, even if you don't own a business, but you have, like I said, property or you do import things, take the time now to register for your bin. But come the end of the year, November, we will begin rolling out the platform for business license. And of course, definitely in January, you will be using the new One Tax Bahamas platform as opposed to the current OTAS system.
And what about those filing back for the last quarter?
For the last quarter, they will file. So quarter 4 will be on the old system, quarter 1 and going forward for 2027 on the new system. So we will be giving out transitional information as the periods come up, but we just wanted to introduce you to the words One Tax Bahamas and, of course, bin registration or the Bahamas information number. Which? Well, from the time you are in business, you can register. Or if you own property, you can register. So for some people, they start businesses from as young as 17, 18. But really, yes, from the time you're doing business with government. What about
businesses that are partners? Would that be a separate number now given to the business? We are the partnership.
Yes, right? So you will have a bin if you are a sole proprietor. You will need another bin if you are a partnership or incorporated. And the thing about the bin now, the bin is in keeping with OECD standards. And so it's now moves from 9 digits. The tin had 9 digits. The bin now has 10 digits, but it does have a level of intelligence within the number. For example, the first 2 digits tells what type of entity you are, whether you are, let's say, a non-profit or a government agency. So yes, ministries and departments will need their bins as well. So it's time for you to, be alert, listen out for the Department of Inland Revenue, all of the things that we will be giving information on various dates. But especially in terms of registration, it's a good time to start early.
Sorry, just for clarification for the bin. So a business owner, let's say, you have your residential house with your real property taxes, and then you have your business taxes. Are they going to be under the same bin, or will you as an individual have 2?
So it depends on the ownership, right? Who owns? So you as an individual, Mary Brown, in terms, you own your home or you own maybe your duplexes, but your company, if you're incorporated, may own the business where you operate. In that case, you will have a bin for your company and you will have a bin for you as a person, but we will be able to link them. And so really One Tax Bahamas and the new bin really allows us to be able to gather more information on our taxpayers, but it also helps them to be able to simplify how they do business with the Department of Inland Revenue.
I know that in prior years, especially around the time of business license registration, there was some issues with the system. Is the department confident that the system will be able to, accommodate such a large amount of people coming onto one platform in order to do transactions?
That's a good question, and that really is one of the reasons we are migrating. So earlier I talked about us being assessed, and one of the criteria, or I should say one of the categories we were assessed for was really how we are servicing our clients in terms of the traffic on our systems. Is the system able to handle it? And so that's another reason we're moving to a new platform. So we should see improvements. Our taxpayers will see improvements in how the system handles the volume of taxpayers interacting with the system.
Okay, and
Shifting gears a bit, can I get an update on how we're doing with collections in terms of back and real property tax collections?
So our collections, we actually did very well last year. As I said, our budget was some $1.8 million, and we collected just around that amount. So collections for us is, we are actually doing well, but of course, there's always room for improvement. So this year, we really will be focusing on decreasing our arrears, which we still are quite concerned about. So you will see some more, so you will hear some more from us in the area of arrears collections very soon.
Have you seen greater compliance with real property tax collections?
Yes, we have seen better compliance, especially in the areas of owner-occupied property. We still think there is room for improvement in the categories of vacant land and commercial properties. And so again, you will see us doing more in the area of, unfortunately, power of sale, because we think quite enough time has elapsed where we've been working with people, and we're not necessarily seeing the type of results we expected to see by now. So enforcement, unfortunately, will be increased.
Can you confirm how many properties have been sold since the department started, enforcement of its power of sale powers?
Around 15. Yes.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much, especially to our presenters and to all of you for being here today. That brings our press briefing to a close. Thank you, everyone, and have a good afternoon.